What's going on, guys? We have made it to Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. I cannot believe that 18 weeks just flew by like that. Making this quick video here to go over basically every single playoff game. I'm going to give you guys my lean on every game the same way that I did for Week 18. We're going to have these also posted up in short form on Reels and TikTok and even Shorts on here, but this will be the longer form if you guys want to hear a little bit more of the reasoning behind why I like some of these spots. Some of these I do like, though they might be actual bigger plays for us. Some of these are just going to be leans, on first glance. But let's go through them. We'll start off with the NFC. We got the Rams taking on the Lions, and this was a matchup that we all expected. This is a matchup that has a lot of the narratives tied to it. You're going to hear a lot about the storyline, about how these two quarterbacks were traded for each other just a few years ago. That trade ended up working out for the Rams. They won a Super Bowl, but the Lions now find themselves kings of the NFC North and at home with a playoff game. So it's been really a mutually successful trade for both sides. But one of the things that I would look at, and I think that, the concern here for Detroit is justified because you look at this Rams offense over the last 6 weeks, they're second in the NFL in terms of offensive DVOA. When this offense is healthy with Stafford and Kyron Williams playing the way he's healthy, playing the way he's playing, Nakua and Kupp, this to me on paper looks like one of the few teams that can actually go into Detroit and play the Lions score for score, touchdown for touchdown. So I do think there's some legitimate concern aside from the storylines and narratives of Stafford going back to Detroit. I just think from a matchup perspective, there's some issues here for the Lions. Their defense has been a little bit shaky all year long. The Rams defend the rush really well, which is something that the Lions look to do almost every game, establish a run to then open up their passing attack. I think that they could have a bit of a problem doing that in this game. And, if there's one thing I want, if I'm going to bet on a team, a road team or a road dog in the playoffs, going into hostile territory to try to get a win, the one thing I want on my side is experience. You've got Super Bowl experience at the quarterback position here and at the head coach position. You've got a defense that even though they've probably had better days behind them, they're still trending up in terms of health. They've still got experience on the defensive front. They still have Aaron Donald, a team that knows what it takes this time of year to win games. And I'd be a little bit concerned here about maybe, the stage, the big spot of being in the playoffs for the Lions who have not been here before. Now, Jared Goff himself has been here, but essentially nobody else has. So kind of a tricky spot for Detroit. I think the 3 in the hook bodes well if you want to bet the Rams, because I can see this being your classic 3-point game, right? 24-21, 27-24, something like that. I could easily see that being what happens in this one. So I would lean to the Rams to get us started. And in terms of the total, it's a bit high. I would lean under. I understand it's an indoor game. I know they're two very good offenses, but this time of year, things are going to slow down. Teams are going to buckle down. You're going to really want to avoid turnovers. You're going to really want to avoid making mistakes. So this is kind of cliche in terms of this is what the NFL is all about, but dog in the under, kind of leaning to the Rams here and the under on the total. The second game that we can look at is a little bit more lopsided. You got the Packers going to Dallas take on the Cowboys. Green Bay's catching 7.5 points in this game. And this one to me is interesting because I'm a Jordan Love fan. I think he's had objectively, he's had a great first year as a starter in this league. I think his future is very bright. And we've bet on him a ton. You guys will know if you follow us on our other platforms. We're just getting started here on YouTube, but we've bet on the Packers a ton. When the season first started, I posted a TikTok and a Instagram reel that my week 1 best bet was the Packers because no one knew how good Jordan Love was going to be. And you can clearly see the Rodgers effect. So I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. But with all that being said, the reason why I prefaced it that way is I think that they're fade material in this game. The Cowboys head back home. That's what they do best. And the 7.5 to me is not exactly I think I need to get at least 9. I need to get at least 8.5, 9 if I'm going to back the Packers with a young quarterback on the road against a team that literally has not lost a home game all season long. Now, I understand they could win and not cover, but I would lean to Dallas minus the points here. One of the other things is the Cowboys passing attack. It's so good at home, and their defense even plays better at home per the metrics. So you can see the Packers having a little bit of a trouble there, a bit of a letdown after they finally get in. These teams, by the way, guys, you'll notice year after year, these teams that need to win to get in week 18, they expend so much energy and focus on that last game that they tend to come out a little bit flat in the playoffs. So just keep that in mind. I would lead to Dallas in this game. I think if this were outdoors in Lambeau Field, I'd probably have a really different opinion on the game. But as is, I would lean to the Cowboys at home. Winning your division has its perks, right? You get a home playoff game, you take care of business in that home playoff game, you're good to go. So I would lean to the Cowboys there. All right, final NFC game, you got the slumping, and that's an understatement. Philadelphia Eagles headed down to Tampa to take on the Bucs. Man, how about that game? 9-0. Full disclosure, we had a great NFL Sunday, but we did have the Panthers plus 4.5. That was one of our losses. To lose that game 9-0, I mean, we needed one score, one touchdown, and they got two touchdowns on two separate occasions called back. Would have had a cover right there if one of those counted, but nonetheless, the Bucs take the NFC South, and now they get to host a playoff game. That's what I mean. Winning the division has its perks. Eagles come in really slumping here. I think your pick is easy on this game, unless you think there's some magical unknown reason why the Eagles are suddenly going to put it together defensively and, to be honest, offensively. I don't see how you don't bet Tampa in this game. Catching points as a home dog against how bad the Eagles have looked this year. Over the last 2 weeks, you guys know this, I've given you the Cardinals plus 520 and the Giants plus 180. Like both times against the Eagles, I've been talking about this Philly regression coming for almost 2 years now, and it basically took 2 full seasons for it to hit. And now they're finally getting hit with it, and they're kind of coming back down to earth. That 11-1 start was crazy with all those one possession wins they had. Things are kind of swinging back for them. And while I'm not a huge fan of the Bucs, I don't think the Bucs are going to be contending for a Super Bowl anytime soon. But I do think they can take this game, especially at home. It's a very different story when Philly hits the road versus when they're at home. And you saw that this past weekend against the Giants. I think they're going to have no problem putting up points against Philadelphia's defense. And I would go ahead and take the 2.5. With Tampa. I just think it's one of those years, Super Bowl losers, right? If you look at last year, the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl against the Eagles, Super Bowl losers tend to not do well the following season. And a lot of people always think Super Bowl hangover for the winner, but it's actually worse. It's actually worse for the loser. If you just look at the historical data, the loser ends up worse off. The winner doesn't do great either, but the loser actually ends up worse off, a lot of times missing the playoffs or just becoming a first-round exit. I think that's what we have this year with Philly. All right, over to the AFC, the Browns headed to Houston. The Texans surprisingly take the division after the Jaguars choked away a game. We had the Titans. We did have the Colts that did not come through for us. And one of the reasons why I had the Colts was I thought they were going to hold down home field advantage. And I thought they were going to take the division because I expected the Titans to beat the Jaguars. And I thought we were going to get an absolute hammer spot here, maybe -3, -3.5, with the Browns going into Indianapolis. And I was going to be all over Cleveland in that game. A little bit of a different story here. I think the Texans pose a different type of challenge, but at the end of the day, it's still a rookie head coach, still a rookie quarterback. As great as he's been, and as big of a success as year one of DeMeco and CJ has been, I was still into Cleveland in this game. They have one of the top 3 defenses in the NFL, and if it's not, it might be one. It might be number one. And getting Joe Flacco that week off, people are like, he's a veteran quarterback. He's won a Super Bowl. He knows what needs to be done this time of year, but also he hasn't played the whole year. That's the thing that people forget. Like, they've rotated quarterbacks. If he had played the grueling schedule of 17 games, that this would be a different story. But the man has just come on here in the last month, and I think he's going to be fresh for this run. I think it makes, the fact that he hasn't played all year makes Cleveland a very dangerous team with the way he's playing at that position right now. So I think the experience here is going to win out, though. After a really, really great first year, future's bright in Houston. I'll lean to Cleveland -2.5 in this game. Then we can take a look at the Dolphins headed to Kansas City. Really, really disappointing season for Miami. Well, the way it ended, I'm sorry. Disappointing last 2 weeks of the season for Miami. They had the division locked up for most of the year. End up losing those last 2 games. The AFC East slips right out of their fingers. It goes to Buffalo, which is now very tough. Now they have to go to Kansas City. It's just such a bad spot for the Dolphins, man. And, on top of that, no Bradley Chubb makes this such a difficult matchup. The Chiefs defense, this has been a year where a lot of people are just going to remember the Chiefs offense has been really down this year. This is a year where their defense is excellent. And I can see them giving Miami a lot of trouble. At the end of the day, it's still a unit that's led by Patrick Mahomes. The experience on their side with Reed and Mahomes, I could see them putting it together, suddenly putting it together in the playoffs, and maybe the offense gets a little bit of a boost. For this time of year. They know what it takes to win this time of year. I think experience cannot be overstated in the NFL. It's very important. And the Dolphins have had their problems on the road all season long. So I don't just expect that to suddenly change this weekend. And again, without Bradley Chubb on defense, this is going to be a very tough spot for Dolphins. 3.5, I think, is not enough. I think this line should be 5 or higher, so I would lean to Kansas City. And the last game that we have here is the Bills and Steelers. And again, this one's going to be short and sweet. Pittsburgh's lucky to even be here. They barely beat the Ravens' backup third-string squad that they threw out there just to have a chance to get in. Then they get the Jaguars loss and they're in. This line to me, this could be 13 and I'd lay it with Buffalo. I may just not play this because I don't love laying big spreads in the playoffs. But if I had to play this, I think this is Bills or nothing for me in this spot. They're going to be high after that big win, clinch the division. Now they go home. They know that if they win this game, they have another playoff home game coming for them. So 2 straight home games. I think it's a great spot for the Bills. And I don't think that Mason Rudolph's going to continue to have success, especially against this Bills defense on the road. I could easily see this being a double-digit victory for Buffalo, so I would lay the points there. Those are all of the games, guys. So good luck this weekend. Just wanted to come on here and give you a quick thoughts on each one. Try to keep this video short and sweet. The actual plays and short-form stuff will be up on TikTok this weekend and all that good stuff. All right, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.